Be me, Betty, HR director. Been married to Eric for 8 years. Finally, in a position where I can make real change. Tired of watching incompetent men climb ladders while qualified women get passed over. Time to level the playing field. Monday morning, reviewing performance evaluations. Notice Christian from engineering got top ratings again. Guy's been here 6 years, consistently high performer. But I've been watching him in meetings, always interrupting women, mansplaining technical concepts. Classic example of how the system props up mediocre men. Call Christian into my office. Christian, we need to discuss some concerns about your collaborative approach. He looks confused. I'm sorry, what concerns? Several female colleagues have mentioned feeling uncomfortable with your communication style, which is technically true. I did ask Sarah if she ever felt talked over. She said, sometimes I guess, but that's enough. Christian gets defensive, starts explaining his projects. Exactly the kind of behavior I'm talking about. Schedule him for mandatory sensitivity training. Add note to his file about interpersonal challenges. Next review cycle, this will matter. Eric comes home that evening. How was work, honey? Actually had to address some workplace dynamics today. Finally holding people accountable. Tell him about Christian's situation. Eric frowns. Wait, what exactly did he do wrong? It's not about one specific thing, Eric. It's about patterns of behavior that marginalize women. But you said his work performance is excellent. Performance isn't everything. Culture matters. Creating safe spaces matters. Eric's getting that look again. The one he's been giving me more often lately. Betty, you're talking about someone's career here. Shouldn't there be actual evidence before? There is evidence. Women feeling uncomfortable is evidence. Which women? What specifically happened? He's missing the point entirely. Eric, this is exactly the problem. You're demanding some smoking gun when systemic oppression works through microaggressions and subtle behaviors. Conversation goes in circles. Eric keeps asking for specifics. I keep explaining how the patriarchy operates. He goes to bed frustrated. I stay up late updating company policies. A few weeks later, situation with David from marketing. Guy's been pushing back on our new inclusive hiring initiatives. Keeps asking questions about quotas and merit-based selection. Red flags everywhere. David requests meeting about the marketing manager position. He's been here 4 years, solid track record. But I've already identified Jessica as better fit. She brings diverse perspective. Went to Women's Leadership Conference. Exactly what this company needs. David, we've decided to go with an external candidate for the marketing manager role. External? But I've been leading half these projects already. Can you give me feedback on what to improve? Here we go with the entitlement. Sometimes the best candidate comes from outside. Fresh perspectives, new ideas. Sure, but what specifically should I work on? I thought my campaign results were strong. This is exhausting. Always making everything about their achievements. David, this isn't just about metrics. We're building a team that reflects our values. What values exactly? I thought we valued results and teamwork. He's really not getting it. We value inclusion, David, and sometimes that means making space for voices that haven't been heard. David leaves looking confused and frustrated. Perfect example of how men react when they lose unearned privilege. Document everything for his file. Note about resistance to organizational change and limited cultural awareness. Eric notices I'm working late again. Another difficult conversation today? Tell him about David's situation. His jaw tightens. Betty, you basically told him he didn't get promoted because he's a man. That's not what I said at all. I said we needed diverse perspectives. Which means what exactly? That his 4 years of work don't matter? Here we go again. Eric, you're oversimplifying this. David represents old school thinking. He questioned our hiring practices, showed resistance to change. He asked questions about the process. That's what good employees do. Good employees trust their leadership and embrace new directions. Good leaders can answer basic questions about their decisions. Eric's voice is getting louder. He's been like this more often lately, always pushing back on my professional judgment. Betty, do you hear yourself? You're destroying people's careers based on vague feelings about their attitudes. I'm creating accountability for behaviors that have gone unchecked for decades. What behaviors? Asking questions, having good performance reviews. Argument continues past midnight. Eric storms off to guest bedroom. He's been sleeping there more often, clearly struggling with my success and influence. Next month brings the Tom situation. Guy from sales, been here 3 years, decent numbers, but I've been watching his social media. Lots of posts about merit-based hiring and reverse discrimination. Exactly the kind of dog whistles I'm trained to spot. Tom's up for senior account manager. Perfect opportunity to send a message. Call him in for what he thinks is a promotion discussion. Tom, before we talk about your advancement, I need to address some concerns. Concerns about what? Your social media presence reflects poorly on company values. Some of your posts about hiring practices are problematic. Watch his face change. I never mentioned the company in any posts. Those were personal opinions about general industry trends. Classic deflection. Tom, when you work here, you represent our brand. Your personal views about diversity and inclusion affect team dynamics. What views exactly? I support fair hiring. I just think the most qualified person should get the job. Define qualified, Tom, because historically, that word has been used to exclude marginalized groups. Tom's getting frustrated, exactly like the others. I mean, relevant experience, strong performance metrics, good cultural fit. Cultural fit with what culture? The old boys club? Watch him struggle for words. No, I mean, working well with the team, sharing company values. Our values include equity and inclusion. Your posts suggest you don't share those values. Tom tries to backtrack, starts explaining his positions, how he supports equality. But the damage is done. Note goes in his file about cultural misalignment and resistance to company values. Promotion goes to Angela instead. She's been here 6 months, but brings fresh energy. That evening, Eric's already in a mood when I get home. Apparently, Tom called him. They play in the same weekend basketball league. Betty, what the hell did you do to Tom? I addressed some professional concerns. Why is Tom calling you? Because he's confused and upset. You denied his promotion because of Facebook posts? I made a decision based on cultural fit and company values. Eric's pacing around the kitchen, more agitated than I've seen him. Betty, Tom's a good guy. He works hard, supports his family, treats everyone with respect. Eric, you don't see the subtle ways these attitudes play out in workplace dynamics. What attitudes? Having opinions about hiring practices. Opinions that reinforce systemic barriers to advancement for underrepresented groups. Eric stops pacing, stares at me. Listen to yourself, Betty. You're using corporate buzzwords to justify punishing someone for thinking differently than you. I'm holding people accountable for attitudes that harm others. What others? Who did Tom harm? It's not about direct harm, Eric. It's about creating environments where... Stop, Eric's shouting now. Just stop with the jargon and double talk. You ruined his career because you disagreed with his politics. I made a business decision about cultural alignment. You made a political decision and dressed it up as business. This fight lasts until 2 a.m. Eric keeps demanding specifics, evidence, concrete examples. I keep explaining systemic issues and cultural transformation. He's not listening, just getting angrier. Betty, you've changed. You used to care about fairness. Now you just care about power. I care about justice, Eric. Sometimes justice looks like power redistribution. Justice looks like destroying innocent people. Eric sleeps in guest room again. I'm starting to think he can't handle strong women in leadership. Few weeks later, situation comes to head with James from IT. Guy's been here 5 years, technically competent, but I've noticed things. He organizes the office fantasy football league. Mostly men participate, creates exclusionary dynamic. Also heard him make comment about political correctness gone too far during lunch. James applies for IT director position. His technical skills are solid, but leadership requires more. Call him in for interview. James, tell me about your approach to building inclusive teams. Well, I try to treat everyone fairly and judge people on their work. Red flag immediately. When you say fairly, what does that mean to you? I guess, same standards for everyone? Best person for the job? This is exactly the problem. These coded phrases that sound reasonable but maintain status quo. James, equity sometimes requires different approaches for different people. How do you account for systemic barriers in your evaluation process? I'm not sure I follow. I just look at technical skills and team contribution. But how do you address unconscious bias in your assessment? I try to be objective. Promote Rebecca instead. She's been here 2 years, came from smaller company, but she led our diversity and inclusion training session. Understands the bigger picture. James takes it badly. Requests meeting with upper management, claims the process was unfair, asks for feedback. I explain that leadership requires broader perspective than technical skills. He keeps pushing for specifics about his deficiencies. Typical male entitlement to detailed explanations. Document everything about his reaction. Note about poor response to developmental feedback and limited growth mindset. Quietly let other managers know about his attitude issues. Eric finds out because James's wife Sarah calls him crying. Apparently, James has been home upset for days. Eric comes home that night ready for war. Betty, we need to talk. Right now. I'm barely through the door. What's wrong now, Eric? Sarah called me in tears. James has been devastated since he didn't get promoted. She said you told him he lacks leadership qualities. I provided constructive feedback about areas for development. What areas? He's been running that department's major projects for 2 years. Eric's face is red with anger, more worked up than I've ever seen him. James is a good man, Betty. He's honest, hardworking, decent to everyone. What exactly disqualifies him from promotion? Leadership isn't just about technical competence, Eric. It's about vision, cultural awareness, ability to build diverse teams. What does that even mean? He works well with everyone in that office. Try to explain about inclusive leadership, how traditional management styles perpetuate exclusion. Eric interrupts me. Betty, stop! Just stop talking and listen to yourself. You're destroying people with meaningless corporate speak. I'm not destroying anyone. I'm making strategic decisions about. You are destroying them. Christian is looking for new jobs. Tom's questioning his entire career. James thinks he's a failure. Eric's pacing again, running hands through hair. These are good men, Betty. They have families, mortgages, kids to put through college, and you're ruining their lives for politics. I'm not ruining anything. I'm creating opportunities for people who've been historically excluded. By excluding others? By punishing people for existing while male? This conversation different from others. Eric's not just frustrated, he's disgusted. Betty, I've watched you systematically target every decent man in your company. Always some vague reason, always some cultural excuse. That's not true, Eric. I evaluate everyone fairly. Fairly? You gave Christian negative reviews for interrupting people. You denied David promotion for asking questions. You told Tom his personal opinions disqualified him. You just told James he lacks vision. Eric sits down, looks exhausted. I used to be proud of your success. Thought you were making positive changes. But this isn't about equality anymore. This is about revenge. Revenge for what? For every slight you think women have suffered, and you're taking it out on individual men who never did anything wrong. Try to explain systemic oppression, how individual actions contribute to larger patterns, how change requires accountability at all levels. Eric just stares at me. Betty, do you hear yourself? You're justifying destroying innocent people's careers because of historical grievances they had nothing to do with. They benefit from the system, Eric. Benefit means responsibility. Benefit from what? Working hard and doing their jobs well? Benefit from unearned advantages, from networks and assumptions that favor them. Eric stands up abruptly. I can't do this anymore. Can't do what? This, us. I can't be married to someone who destroys good people and convinces herself it's justice. My stomach drops. Eric's serious in a way I haven't seen before. Eric, you're being dramatic. These are personnel decisions based on legitimate business considerations. No, Betty. These are power trips disguised as social justice, and I won't be part of it anymore. Try to reason with him. Explain how change is difficult but necessary. How leadership means making tough decisions. Eric just keeps shaking his head. I've watched you become someone I don't recognize, someone I don't respect, someone I can't love. Eric, you're reacting emotionally to necessary changes in workplace culture. I'm reacting rationally to watching my wife destroy innocent people's lives for ideological reasons. Eric goes to bedroom, starts packing. I follow him, still trying to explain. He won't listen anymore. Betty, I've tried to understand, I've tried to support you, but I can't watch you hurt people anymore. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm creating accountability. You're creating victims. Good men with families who never did anything wrong except exist in a system you've decided to blame them for. Eric finishes packing, turns to face me one last time. I hope someday you realize what you've become, but I won't be here when it happens. Eric, please, you're overreacting to a few difficult workplace situations. I'm reacting appropriately to discovering my wife has become a bully with a badge. Eric leaves, takes half our stuff over next few days while I'm at work. Divorce papers arrive 2 weeks later. Find out he's been staying with his brother across town. Try calling him several times. He answers once. Betty, don't contact me unless it's about the divorce paperwork. Eric, we can work through this. You're just not understanding the complexity of workplace transformation. I understand perfectly. You prioritized your ideology over innocent people's lives, and you lost yourself in the process. He hangs up. That's the last real conversation we have. 6 months later, sitting in empty house. Christian found new job, heard he's doing well. David started his own consulting firm. Tom transferred to different department. James took early retirement. Family moved out of state. Rebecca struggling as IT director. Department productivity down 30%. Angela having trouble with marketing campaigns. Jessica never did follow through on those innovative ideas. Upper management asking questions about turnover rates. Exit interviews showing patterns in complaints. having to explain why so many experienced employees leaving. Eric never came back. Divorce finalized last month. He moved to different city for fresh start. Heard through mutual friends he seems happier. Still believe I did the right thing. Change is never easy. Systems don't transform without disruption. Sometimes individual casualties are necessary for greater progress. But house feels empty now. Work feels different too. Harder to maintain energy for constant vigilance. Starting to wonder if the cost was worth it. Eric's words keep echoing. Good men with families who never did anything wrong. Try to push them away. Focus on bigger picture. Systemic change requires sacrifice. But late at night, alone in too big house, sometimes wonder if he was right. If I became something I didn't recognize. If justice and revenge started looking the same. No. Can't think like that. Change is hard. People resist progress. Someone has to be willing to make difficult decisions, even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means being alone. Still, when I pass by James's old office, or see Christian's replacement struggling with projects he handled easily, or watch Rebecca stress over systems James built, sometimes feel something that might be regret, but regret for what? For holding people accountable, for creating opportunities for underrepresented groups, for refusing to accept status quo. Eric couldn't handle strong women making necessary changes. His loss, his inability to see beyond individual cases to systemic patterns, his privileged perspective that protected him from understanding real stakes. That's what I tell myself. Most days I believe it. Some days I'm not sure. But I made my choices, lived with consequences, stood up for what I believed was right, even if it cost me everything else.